All right, so this is part 3 now, and this is going to be over in a few minutes here because I didn't want to spend that much time on this one. So I would get out of the car, stand right in front of it as they charged at me, and that caused them to slow down and turn back and head the other way. And of course, before they actually headed the other way, or no, I'm sorry, they would head the other way and then go back to where they were, and I'd get back in the car. They would wait about anywhere from a half hour. I mean, the thinking, like I said, before, it's not hard to figure it out, okay? What would you do? Well, I'd probably wait for about a half hour and try again. So 30 minutes later on the dot, I think it was only one point, it was 45, but exactly 30 minutes later on the dot is when I expected it, and sure enough, here they go again. And I just did the same thing. So that actually repeated itself, I think for a total, on that particular night, for a total like 3 times. And the signal, honking signal, remember now, one was get red in this case, because it's different and depending on the situation. So in this case, one was get ready, and they were all in formation. People, I don't know if you can imagine, but it, very dark. Yes, there's a little light in the parking lot, but not much. And you got like anywhere from 10 to 12 cars coming right at you. And now they've honked twice, so they're speeding toward you. What would you do? You know what it's like, and I did this more than once, and I did this not only more than one night and or day. This was sometimes multiple times a day and or night, multiple days and nights. But let's just take this one instance for example. Do you know how much courage it took, knowing that those loud engines are speeding down toward you with the bigwigs, supposedly, the guys with rank? And let's just say, yes, they were from the, let's just say, biggest ethnic group on the planet. Well, color group anyway. I got a feeling I know exactly what ethnic group they come from, but I'm not going to bring that up right now. That's another time. So anyway, but yeah, and then, nice dress pants, nice dress shirts, very slick, combed hair. I know how those guys look like, all right, so I already knew who this was. You have in that community, you have some that are in the field that look like that, and then you have some who are only administrative that look like that. And depending on that particular action that they're doing, that pretty much gives them away. I'm going to just leave it at that. Anyway, but do you know how much courage it took with all these, including those guys in the black Dodge Chargers, with all the other gang members coming down, speeding toward you in their cars, full on, revved to the hill, to get out of your vehicle, stand in front of it, and stare them straight down? Quite a bit. It takes quite a bit. And I just kept thinking, well, if this is it, if this is it and it's my time, so be it. But they're going to have to do it with me standing right in front of them standing right in front of them, staring them down as well. And in the end, they ended up decelerating and backing off and returning back to where they were parked until they gave the sign to actually go, to leave the premises, because that was, you know, they figure it might be drawing too much attention, because there was a few vehicles that came around the area from that point. Good for me, you know, but that's when you would hear, the multi-honk lights flashing on and off signal. You hear the honk, 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 and that main car is giving or barking the orders would, you know, in other words, saying, let's get out of here, whatever. And like I said, I mean, I'm only probably going to cover, of all the hit attempts that happened upon me, I'm just going to do a few of them, but that's in that particular spot. That's pretty much how it went down. And I think there might have been one more in that particular spot. And I would have to sit and kind of gather my thoughts to get that one down on some kind of record. So I don't know if I'll do a segment on that one, but on the last part, I'll tell you how it did go. I had, you know what, I'm not going to reveal all that intel, because that's, you always may need that again. But let's just say there was, there's some times where you have to get very creative to, when it's one against, and in some of the vehicles there was like two. Or, I don't know, it might have been three in one of my saw, but it was like either one or two in each vehicle. So let's just say half and half, you got 10 to 12 vehicles. Let's say 12, so that's at least 12. Then plus half that, at least, so 6. So let's say almost 20 people charging right at you. It's not an easy thing to, well, let's just say to either feel out or to compute the only, at a total disadvantage, the only recon that you can possibly do yourself, and take all of that counter intel and figure it into about maybe 3 to 5 seconds as to what you're going to do. So that's what I ended up doing, at least in that one particular situation. There was quite a few of them, like I said, but now the point, as I was trying to bring up in the last part, the point of all this is this: yes, I had the makeshift curtain, so they, and I have to say, like I said, as I pretty much all been confirmed later, but I have to say, apparently, maybe, could be off the top of my head, possibly. I know they hate when I do that. Okay, so now that that's out of the way. The point is if you go and spray a car like that with the curtain drawn and you cannot see inside any video cameras around, even if, let's just say, certain tapes weren't able to be confiscated immediately after and slipped through the cracks and leaked, it would show nobody getting, pumped with 100 to 200 rounds, because the curtain's closed. So, plus, Mr. Mop-Up, Mr. Participating, your friendly neighborhood, local participating police officer that participated with them, you know, being that he's there for mop-up duty to make sure that, you know, the, let's just say the cooperating evidence would be available in any police report after the fact, and that, you know, damning evidence would just happen to not appear in such a report. You know, versus if you step out of the vehicle, and, you know, I kind of pretty much knew what they were doing by the time they started charging. I mean, I already knew what they were going to do. It might have taken me maybe 2 or 3 days later to somewhat, you know, in thinking it through and speaking with a couple of people as to, you know, confirming what all that was about and the advantages and disadvantages to each situation and all that stuff. So anyway, but when you're visible, if some surveillance tape just happens to slip through the cracks and becomes public, then there's quite a few of them who are going to be in deep crap, forgive my language. So as it turns out, I mean, at least that time and those few other times, you know, I just, all thanks to the true creator of the greater good that, you know, those choices were made when they were. So anyhow, that is pretty much, and then of course, as I mentioned, they gave the multi-halt signal and they all ended up going, I think it was after the third try or so. That was on that night. There is still an instance, and I will cover that. There was the biggest pursuit of all, which I was just starting to figure out what they were trying to do, but they didn't really have a chance to make an attempt that night. But that was probably the biggest pursuit of all. I'll try to get that segment together for you, as well as there was also a bigger attempt even than this one, although this was one of the bigger ones, that in which they actually had me cornered, I guess you could say. You know, I'll have to think that through, but I'll try to, as you can tell, I'm still here, so you know what happened, but I'll try to maybe see what I can do about lightly putting some kind of segment together for you on that. All right, so I just hope this is something, you know, I could never ever think of doing this to even a worst enemy that is or could possibly be a human being, animal, or anything living. I just don't understand how these evil beings can do this to somebody else. But anyhow, everybody, stay safe. Please take care. I love each and every one of you. And we'll talk to you soon. All right? God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.